That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the fuck are you talking about?
Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Sports Hounds. Brad Ryer. I'm Frank Vespi, doing double dipping, hosting, and producing. Rob Brinkman is away on assignment. We hope that he will return next week. And joining us tonight is former NHL veteran, former New York Islander, New York Ranger, and St. Louis Blue, Rich Pilon, joining us tonight. But first, let's thank our sponsors. SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. We got 2 locations over in Burlington and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can contact our doc, Dr. Paul Vidal. Make them yours over at Specialized Physical Therapy at SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. We're also brought to you by Body Check Wellness, a line of products that promote wellness, balance, and recovery by using the full potential of hemp. They come in extracts, blends, gummies, and topicals. Use promo code A2D for 20% off your order at bodycheckwellness.com. And as a special offer, when former Flyer Riley Cote joins the Hockey Happy Hour on one particular Thursday, be prepared for a special offer. Also, many of us and our families deal with mental health and addiction issues. We are happy to support the Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox over in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. If you need the help, please call 856-651-8117 and tell them Tom Arnone sent you. And our last sponsor, if you are looking to buy or sell a home, looking for a change in career or brokerage, contact my pal, he'll be your pal, Alan Foy, over at eXp Realty LLC at 302-682-8820, or visit him at Alan Foy at exprealty.com. So, Rich, it's very exciting to have you on. You know, I mean, I'm a Flyers fan, Brad's a Rangers fan, and of course, my dad, who's probably somewhere in the house right now, huge Islanders fan since 1972. So it's really exciting to have you on tonight. So let's have this going. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on here. Look forward to the conversation.
All right.
So Rich, what are you doing these days?
Coaching, GM coach in Saskatchewan in Canada. It's a Tier 2 Junior A, and GM coach of the Weyburn Red Wings of the hockey program up there. So it's about we're only about an hour and a half, I guess, from North Dakota. So, or like the border from the border of Saskatchewan, of Canada and the U.S. border. So it's farther in the south, and obviously I'm from Saskatoon in the north. So it's I was into my second year before COVID hit here. So always kind of been coaching, and obviously coached my son all the way up. And now that he's off doing his own thing, then it was kind of my opportunity now to kind of keep myself busy and keep myself out of trouble. So I took on this opportunity.
All right. So now let's get to the story. Now, you made your debut 1988, 1989. It was a weird time with the Islanders. You know, you have the chunks of the dynasty gone. You know, Billy Smith, who would eventually become the goaltending coach, Brian Trottier on the last of his prime down in on the island before he went to Pittsburgh. And you also had some new faces coming around: Pat LaFontaine, Brett Sutter. You also been dealing with a coaching change mid-season. You know, Terry Simpson fired 27 games in the season. They bring back Al Arbor. Can you describe to me, you know, that entire rookie season, the roller coaster ride that was, you know, that and the 242 penalty minutes during that game?
Well, for what, I didn't know the coaching side and all the other stuff. I had no clue. I was just happy being there. I was just tickled pink that I was getting an opportunity to play pro, and obviously getting to be around guys like Billy Smith and obviously Brent Sutter, you know, Pat Flatley, Pat LaFontaine. You know, guys like Kenny Moore were still kicking around there. So I think the opportunity, just, you know, being a young guy coming in at that era is definitely different than what it's like now. You came in when they were still putting beer in the dressing room and taking it out, right? So that was new to everything. And, guys would smoke and guys would go in between there, leave the room after the coach did their spiel and go have a cigarette in between periods, which was unbelievable when you think about it now.
Yeah.
And now all you hear is blunders and shakes and everything else. But I think anytime you're going into your first year as a new as a new guy in a lineup, being at the best level that you've ever been, it's very. Just 1 second. Can I just hold on one?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my grandson. Anyways, so when you're coming into an NHL team, especially the program like the New York Islanders, first of all, you're in awe that you're even there. That's one.
Yeah.
Secondly, you're part of a dynasty that you get to be around those guys that created that dynasty. So there's really, in my position, being a rookie, there was nothing negative about it except positive being part of that program. And then obviously when Terry got fired, he's the one that got me there and put me in that position. Obviously Al Arbour coming in kind of, he's the, Terry got me into the league, and I remember sitting with Terry because I run a golf tournament for Rich Pilon, just a bit off track, but I invited Terry to be one of our guests at the golf tournament, and I met him here at a place here in Saskatoon for a coffee, and Terry's a very quiet guy and doesn't say a lot, and he's eating his pancakes, and he goes, I said, Terry, you know what? I never did thank you for getting me to the NHL because he really gave me that opportunity. And he doesn't say a word. I'm just kind of waiting for him to say, you're welcome. And he looks up. He goes, you know what? Come to think of it, I got you in and you got me out.
It's horrible.
And he starts laughing. He's making a joke, right? But then obviously, Al come in and Al just kind of, he's the one that I guess molded me into, because I had quite a few points going in. Like I was getting points as a D-man, getting opportunity. And then when Al came in, he just said, listen, if you want to play in this league for a long time, Rich, you're going to have to either – I see you as a defensive defenseman. I don't see you as a offensive guy in the NHL. So my suggestion is if you want to be in this league a long time, here's what you have to do. And I just said, Al, just tell me what I got to do and I'll do it. And so he molded me into really what I was. So, yeah. So
no, you were one of the toughest defensemen in the league, to say the least. I mean, you had a lot of brawls and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I was a guy that, basically was a shutdown guy, and I had to, for me to have success, I had to be able to be pedaled down, not only in games, but in practices. And, one of the things that Al taught me, and a lot of guys on my team used to be like, God, Rich is grumpy today. Like if I had a bad game the night before, I can guarantee you the next practice, the next day, I was out. I'm on an interview, mate. I was in a situation where I would pick on my teammates. But what I learned as I did this stuff, Al would come up to me and say, you know what? Like, for instance, if we were on a little bit of a winning streak and certain guys were getting like a little bit cocky, I guess, he would come up to me and say, hey, Rich, you know what? You got to like put this guy in his place. Wake this guy up. And so I would just do as I was told. And I'd go slew foot either Ray Ferraro or go after Brent.
Mm-hmm.
And usually not Brent. It was usually Ray Ferraro. It was usually David Volek. Were guys that. So what I learned through Al was that, and I carried this out in my career. The best way to your best competition are your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I learned to do was that when I seen guys kind of letting off the pedal a bit, I would go and I would get them pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got them pissed off, they were just competing harder. And it was just making them better, but also me better, because the guys you play against in games don't usually let off the pedal, right? So That's one of the biggest things I learned from Al, and some of the things I even pass on to, I'm trying even for my own son to learn that your best competition has to be your teammates.
Yeah.
And it's a really fine line when you're trying to take their job away or keep your job. I said, but really at the end of the day, what are you willing to do to keep your job, right?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
get into a lineup. And that's one of the things that I think that's in our game today as I'm now in the hockey as coaching and being a GM, a lot of players in today's game, in the world that I live in, the millennials that we're involved with, everything's been kind of handed to them, but it's our fault for giving it to them. And when they have to fight for something, my son included, really I've coached him all the way up to junior hockey. Well, did he really ever have to make a team? No, he didn't. And now when he's actually got to try and make a team, like he did really good at junior, he scored a lot of, he's a point getter. He's over a point of a game guy, kit player. And he's now proven he can score at the AHL at the pro level. But unless he gets a real good opportunity and a good look at the NHL level, he's not, we'll never know. So now he's got to take somebody's job away, and he's really not sure how to do it. And it's, that's, one of the things that I've learned with him, and I'm going to pass on to the kids I coach now, is that I'm going to be more about what Al taught me way back in the day, that our practices have to be way more intense and way more, a little bit more vicious, I guess, so to speak. And because that only makes each other better in the long run.
Absolutely. And the huge impact that Al made, especially in the world of hockey, I love that you're applying that philosophy nowadays when you're coaching junior A. The world is missing a great coach, and I'm glad that you're continuing that legacy of Coach Arbor.
Yeah. What's awesome. He was very. And the thing you have to understand with players, and this is one of the things with Al, he was a player's coach, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of there's coaches that I watch in the NHL today that I look up to, and I use John Tortorella, who I had him at the Rangers, and he was an assistant coach there, but you've seen his Torts is a very intense person. And we've all seen it. Yeah. I know, right? And you see it even more. I thought he was intense as an assistant coach, because usually your assistant coaches are a little bit more fun to be around, and they're supposed to be the buffer to the coach. And Torts was, you still didn't want to go talk to Torts when he was an assistant coach. You're like afraid of him. And now I think that's one thing I think he has to, whether, you look at Paul Maurice with the Jets, what he's done there. And I think he's done more being a mentor and a friend to his players to some degree, and he's taken kind of the X and O's out of it from what I'm hearing, and kind of going, how the hell's your day going today? You know what I mean? Right. And getting on that level instead of worried about the X and O's, because, the COVID, the crap that we're dealing with, the intensity of game, playing all these games, as much as everybody says, hey, we want to play games, that's where the fun is. Yeah, but that's where you get exposed. That's where everything comes out. And when you have these many games, you think about the pressure. If you're not on the good side of the right side of the coach or the organization, getting out of a slump when you have no time to practice, no time to kind of just reset, has got to be hell for a goal scorer, because they do have the toughest job in hockey.
They do.
Yep. It's kind of like Mika Zibanejad this year with the Rangers. I mean, I think he was in a horrible slump. I think the first 20 to 25 games, I think he had one goal.
Yep.
Yeah, and then thankfully for him, the Flyers came along and get out of the slump. Sorry.
There's a friend of mine that's a huge Flyer fan here from Saskatoon. He is a die-hard Flyer fan, and I give it to him all the time, right? Yeah. We're both in AA together, and I said to him, because he's always talking about the Flyers, like he's always about the Flyers, and I just get tired of hearing of it, right? And I'm always like, I jab him, I talk about how great the Rangers and the Islanders are, and he hates the Rangers and Islanders, right? Well, of course you hate us. I said, we've been stepping on you for your whole life as a fan. I go, that's why you hate them. They beat you up. It's like, that's why Milbury hated the Islanders so much. Oh yeah, because the guys that he had to actually meet now and make them wear like a VIP thing to get downstairs were the guys that kick the shit out of him. Of course he's going to be hard on him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember like on a random side note, during the '80 Stanley Cup run for the Islanders, my dad loves telling this story. So when he was in high school, he was in high school with all Flyers fans, and all these Flyers fans, this was back in 1980, so they're fresh off a couple back-to-back Stanley Cups, so they were just giving my dad hell during the playoffs. The game where the Islanders clinch it, my dad had this. He has the tape. I still have the cassette. He recorded the game-winning goal from Nystrom.
Yeah.
And morning announcements happen. He plays the tape, and it's like, Nystrom scores a puck and goal, and the Islanders win the Stanley Cup over and over and over again. I still have the tape from when it happened, but seeing my dad, especially when the Islanders had the playoff run last season, watching the games were hilarious with him. Like every time the Isles scored, he just like rubbed it in the face. It's like, yeah, like a boss. Like just messing with me. Just seeing the excitement in the Islanders. It's really fun to see that again.
Yeah, it's fun to see all of that because I don't think the Canadian, like as much as the Canadian market, the Canadians and the obviously Toronto are the two teams everybody talks about. But the fans in the U.S., for whatever reason, I think are way more. I don't know if it's patriotic. I don't know what it is, but whether it's an American thing. But I had friends of mine that used to come up to drive my vehicle up for me when I was playing for the Islanders and the Rangers, actually. And then I would fly them. They'd spend a week with me. They're good friends of mine from my hometown, and then they would spend a week in New York, obviously, and then go home. And I remember we went to a Sunday football, and it was the Jets and Giants. And they're like, they could not believe how intense the game was.
Oh yeah,
like they don't understand that because here we have the CFL, but it's like the cheering. It's like you're at the game, but you're at a bar.
Yeah,
bars are worse.
Yeah,
bars.
Yeah,
and even at the Eagles games, it's even crazier. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. And all the games are insane.
They're insane. It's like I said you guys have never experienced an Islander Ranger game. I said we watched the Islander whether we're in the Garden. I said first of all it's half and half. Yeah, on the island. I said when you go to the Rangers, there's there's a handful of Islander fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they just get abused.
Yeah.
But I said, if you guys could ever experience that, I said, because when we play it, we're like, okay, if the game's out of hand with like 10 minutes left, it's like you start looking up in the stands.
Yeah.
Because bodies are flying around somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been to my share of Flyers Islanders games. I've been to an Islanders Pens game, which was when Coach Arbor came back in 2008 for his 1500th game. I was there for that when they were facing Pittsburgh. I just remember that was a fun environment in the old barn, heckling Crosby. That was a fun game, And then,
and I haven't been. I go back to the island. Obviously I haven't been to I've been to a couple NHL games with my son and some friends of mine here. We kind of took them on a bit of a tour during when they were a little bit younger, and just to kind of give them the experience of what it's like. Whether we did Phoenix, we did Montreal, we did Vancouver. I was supposed to do Pittsburgh. I haven't done that yet, but I'm going to do that. I said to Garrett when he's hopefully playing his first game, because I'd like to take a picture with Mario, right? Because of the statue. I don't know if you heard about the statue.
Yes, you were in the statue, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, no matter what, I'm above ground for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
right. and whenever they ask me about that statue, I'm like, yeah, they just got it facing the wrong way. That's all. So Mario said he was going to, obviously take care of us and bring us up there but this is a while ago now when it first came out. But, I'm going to hit him up one day and call him up and say, listen, you promised me a flight and a night with you to hang out. I said, so, and I'll just say, yeah, don't worry. I won't hit on your wife. We'll be good. Yeah. So, yeah.
Hey, Richie, your little rivalry with Eric Lindros, that was always fun when the Islanders would play the Flyers. Yeah, we as fans. I mean, I know I'm a Ranger fan, but I'm a hockey fan too.
Yeah.
So anytime the Islanders were on, I had the cable, so I would watch. I watched the Islanders. I would watch the Rangers. I would watch the Devils. The only time I ever rooted for the Islanders back then was when they were playing the Flyers. I just remember you. I mean, we had to root against the Flyers because it's still as much as we hated the Islanders, you're still New York, so we always remembered that.
Well, I think with Eric and I, they had that Legion of Doom line, right? And honestly,
and you were always out against them.
And I always had to, and I was like the 6 foot, 210, whatever I was at the time, right? That was my weight. But you're playing against guys that are like 6'3", that are like 240.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember those games would be like, you knew when you were going to Philly or playing them. I knew I was going to be playing against Eric because we had a rivalry, and that was my matchup. And I was, me with Kenny Onsen at the time. That's who I was playing with the most, and it was try to manage that line. And we just had heated battles. And the one time when I did knee him, and which would have been a really a kneeing penalty now, and he went flying, hurt his leg. Well, from that day forward, him and I absolutely every game, and we fought, but. I'm not a heavyweight. I would, I could hold my own and fight when I had to, and hopefully to try either get the team up. And obviously, sometimes you just had to fight out of respect for the guy that you were up against. If you knew what he was trying to do, and just give him that opportunity because I knew guys in the league gave it to me. So, and sometimes it wasn't going to be pretty, and sometimes it was just out of respect for certain guys.
Well, you gave it to Lindros pretty good in the second fight you guys had. I watched that a couple of days ago on YouTube, and I was like, man, you got him with a couple of lefts, right?
Yeah, I always switched. Like, I like to go punch for punch with certain guys that weren't the heavies, right?
Yeah. Because
they're not going to want to get hit. You're not going to go punch for punch with, like, Domi or, like, or Probert if I had to ever, because you're like, you're not going to win that one. You are like, okay, you got to manage the fight now, right?
Right.
But yeah, you obviously, I always started right and then would switch to left with certain guys just because you knew that certain guys didn't want to get hit or, because I wore the visor, even because of my eye injury, a lot of guys didn't even knew I could fight. Like I remember fighting Keith Jones, the one fight. I don't know if you ever heard this story. Do you ever hear the story with Keith Jones that he talks about even on hockey now? He's actually said it a few times because I have people ask me. So Keith Jones is playing for the Capitals.
Okay.
And I think he's part French. Is he not? I think he's French, a little bit French. I think he is. Anyways, he calls me on. I'm like, he's serious? He wants to fight me, this guy? And so we fight, and I absolutely annihilate him. Like, so he's in the box, and then Hunter comes over and goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He had a visor on. I thought he wasn't tough because he was wearing a visor. He goes, Hunter goes to him, No, you stay away from that guy. Don't ever do that again. He thought I had the visor and plus my name. He thought I was French. That's what it was. He thought I had a French name, Pilon, and because I had a visor that I was just going to be a pushover. So he goes, "Why not? Let's go."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's kind of funny. So the visor obviously worked at times. And you know what? When I think back now, because I don't have vision in my right eye, right? So I lost my vision in pretty much all my vision in my right eye my second year pro, and then played with a visor for the rest of my career. And honestly, when I think about me taking off my helmet every fight, pretty much, right? Not safe, really.
Right.
But you don't know any better. Like even and a lot of times, even I think when I would fight, I would go like punch for punch. But if somebody would have hit me on my right eye or my left eye, it actually closed it with a black eye, I wouldn't be able to drive.
Oh,
I wouldn't be able to see. I wouldn't be able to see where I'm going. I'd be like blind, basically. But thank God it never happened. But now when you look back, right, kind of what you don't think about when you're in the heat of the moment and what you feel you got to do for the team, right?
Exactly. Now going back to your Coach Arbor's philosophy with making your teammate better. A story with your teammate Mick Fukuda going after Dale Hunter.
Yeah.
What was that all that about?
Well, that was all over when he hit Turgeon, right? He hit Turgeon.
Yes.
And then like you think about the emotion that you're involved in. We're now we're thinking we're going to get him because he's got to walk past our dressing room to get to the bus.
Okay.
So Mick and I are downstairs going, well, let's get him. Let's get undressed, and we'll wait for him to go by. We'll get him when he's with his street clothes. So we were planning to take him down as he's going to leave the building. Like, how stupid is that?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, really, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Like-
but I can understand why though.
Yeah, we were upset
Yeah.
because we lost.
That was a cheap.
Oh,
That was
oh,
so-
yeah.
It was cheap. It was very cheap, and plus we, at the time, were like, well, geez, now we got to go back to Washington. Now we got to win without Terge, right? Our
Right.
best player,
which you
and-
did, I think, didn't you?
which we did anyways.
Yeah, and then you was that the year you shocked Pittsburgh too?
yeah. And that
By
just
the way,
brought
was
us
it,
too close.
was it you that put Kevin Stevens away? Who put Kevin Stevens away?
Yeah, it was myself. It was. You know what happened with Kevin? There was me and Darius were playing against him, Lemieux, and Francis. No, him. It was. Yeah, it was. No, sorry. Yeah, it was him, Lemieux, and Francis, or was it Jaeger? With Jaeger, with Mario, Jaeger, and it was one of those. It was. I know it was Mario and Kevin, and it was either Francis or Jaeger, Jeremy, and we were actually like Darius was in Mario's kitchen. Like Mario was just a mess. And we were both on that whole team, me and Darius. And then Kevin, I remember the shift before, tells me on the draw, he goes, "You're not going to make it out of this game." He goes, "The first chance I get, I'm going to blindside you." That's what he tells me on the draw.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
So then on this icing call, it's touch icing. So basically you touch the puck, whistle blows, you're supposed to plays over. I could see Kevin coming down the corner of my eye. On my one, he was coming down my left side. I could see him that it was gonna. All I had to do was touch the puck. It'd been rimmed around from right to left. He was coming down the left side, and I'm like, he's not stopping. He's actually going to take a run at me here. So I just kind of waited, like I was not. I made myself look vulnerable, I guess, enough. And I thought as soon as he gets close enough, I'm just going to jump up my shoulder into his face. That was my thinking. And that's really what happened, except my helmet hit him in the head, right?
Right.
And then I went out the back door, basically, because that's how hard he hit me. And he just went straight up, but he was already knocked out. And it's not, I don't know if the helmet knocked him out, but the fall to his face on the ice is actually what broke his face up, right? And then I got to play with Kevin. We nicknamed his name's Artie. Everybody calls him Artie. And got to play with Kevin with the Rangers. And he's just one of those guys. He's the glue guy of a team. And they're lost to them because he's so well liked from his teammates that obviously was, for what he had to go through with that injury, that even helped us, I think, a little bit, because they were more worried about his health and everything else than they were about winning a hockey game, right?
Right.
So,
well, nobody told him to take a run at you.
Yeah, and that's where, you know what I mean? And there's the game within a game, right? And you see it, there's less of it now, I think, and I believe there is. There's, now guys are, we were planning stuff back then, like, and you knew when, if I had to answer the bell, whether it was, taking a little Lemieux or playing against Tampa, taking, like, certain guys. I remember Barnaby coming after me, and, late in the game, there's like a couple minutes left, the game's out of hand, but you see like a bunch of guys coming out that aren't trying to score goals. You know that. Yeah. You're like, okay, because we used to plan the same thing. Okay, we're going to plan a line brawl because we got to get so-and-so. So who's going to start the line brawl so we can get so-and-so? That was our planning before shifts, right?
Well, everybody used to do that back then.
And that's how you used to get guys. So if guys were taking liberties on certain guys, that's how you got them back, right? Whereas now, and that was our policing within ourselves within the game. Whereas now, you get a 10-minute misconduct, you get too many of those, you get suspended. They've taken that away from it. It's made the game faster and better, but it's also made guys a lot tougher that aren't as tough as they probably really are, right?
Right.
It kind of made everybody soft. I'm not crazy about that.
Yeah, it did, because guys can now be chippy, and like I want my kid to, like my son, to play more with a chip on his shoulder, with more FU in his game, is what I call it, right? And he's a goal scorer, but if he wants to play in the NHL, he has to play with more F you, because unless you're going to be an Ovechkin and there's only one of him,
Yep.
there's only a handful of guys that can actually float through a game and still leave the game with 2 or 3 points, right?
Right.
There's the Crosbys who I respect Sidney so much just because I watch the way he plays the game. And a Connor McDavid, they play the game the right way. And, no disrespect to Ovi. Like you got to be, he's a hockey player and he's a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Do I like the way he plays the game, shift in and shave out? No, but would I take him on my team any day of the week? You're damn right I would, right?
Right.
And I think that's where, in today's game, when you talk about being soft, is as much as Ovi's not a soft player. You can't be at that level that he's at.
He's not. No, he definitely
No.
is. He's he'll score. I could see him getting a Gordie Howe hat trick.
Oh yeah. I don't know if he'd fight, but I think he would fight. But he's dirty, right? He's
Yeah.
dirty.
Well, I've seen him be he's sneaky dirty because he doesn't.
He's sneaky
He doesn't
dirty.
do it in front of you. He gets you from behind or from the side or
And he tries to hit you with your head down when he'll take a run at you.
Mm-hmm.
So but you got to respect that. He can he's got a hell of a slap shot off that freaking. No one seemed to be able to stop him from scoring goals, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
he does what he does. Richie, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the deadline.
Yep.
Okay. Your Islanders made couple of really good trades. I like the one today they made with getting Braden Coburn. I think he's going to definitely help get a little defensive depth for for your 5th and 6th defenseman. But getting Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, that was a steal. I mean, I just can't understand how New Jersey let them get those guys so cheap.
Well, I think there's probably more to this deal. Probably there's a little bit more to it than we know, right? I'm guessing. It's a hell of a deal for the Islanders, no question. Obviously New Jersey's not going anywhere, but with the Islanders being in their situation, they just added a lot of depth. Right now for the obviously you got Lee that's out, which is hurting them, right, or will hurt them if they'll need him back eventually. But this is just adds some stability and a lot of depth on the front end for the power play and everything else. That's going to hopefully make them they'll be a contender. I have them actually right now. I have them being in the top 4 at the end of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they could. I think they could end up representing the our side of the. Is it considered the East and the West? I'm not.
The East Division.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I could see them. They're going to be playing for that. I believe the final for that to represent.
Yeah.
I mean, their
goaltending. Their goaltending is just their goaltending is real strong, and they do kind of remind me a little bit of the Islanders of old. They got some real tough defensemen on their team right now. Mayfield. That Mayfield is just a nasty, nasty guy. He kind of reminds me. He reminds me a lot of you, actually.
Yeah, he's about a foot taller than me, though. He's a full pylon. I'm a half a pylon. Because his feet are not that fast, but he's got a long stick.
Yeah, well, he was. Yeah. He's just. I mean, he just punishes everybody, and he doesn't. He doesn't care who it is. You're going to get hit, and if you try to go around him, you're still going to get hit.
Yeah. Well, they made even that deal with Corbin, like you said. They just added a lot of depth, and they roll 4 lines. They got that 4th line with Clutterbuck and Martin. Like which other
Martin always kill the Rangers.
Which other team do you see actually roll 4 lines like the Islanders?
Nobody.
I don't think there's anybody.
Clutterbuck and Martin have always. I don't know what it is, especially Clutterbuck. He kills the Rangers, and you sit there and you're like, "Come on, it's Clutterbuck." You can accept Barzell scoring against you. You can accept that.
It's Kyle Clutterbuck,
but Clutterbuck, he does it every. I mean, it just feels like it's every game with him and Martin, and it's just like, come on.
Yeah, especially in the playoff series, it was like that. It's like you're letting him score. Like,
that's what my son's with what Garrett is up with the Capitals right now, right? On the coffee squad. So I watch it. I'm like, even when I watched the Islander game the other night with the Capitals and the Islanders, I'm watching this game. I'm going, I said, you know what? The Capitals are kind of in it, but the Capitals are not patient, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't play that playoff hockey. Like, they can't play it. They could play the odd game like that, but they're not going to play a series like that just because. And I don't want to blame the Euros, but they get impatient, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't want to play a 0-0 game or 1-0. And the Islanders thrive on that right now. And they've gotten guys like Barzal, who I had no respect for when they first taken the kid, because I'd seen him play junior, and it's not even the kid's fault, but just the way the coaches used him in when he was in Seattle. He never came off the ice, and he floated. And I thought, well, this kid will never be able to play in the NHL like this. Like, I remember a friend of mine, and we argued about it. I'm like, he is going to get his eyes opened up. Well, guess what? He opened my eyes. They had a bit of, I know he's a bit of a work on, I know the coaching staff very well enough that they talked, Lane and talks to a friend of mine, and his brother and I are really tight. And I asked him about Barzal, and he says he is, but he's a me player, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is about Barzal. He's about the name on the back.
Yeah.
He's not about the logo. He's about himself, because he's always been that since he's been. We played against Barzal when he was playing for the Vancouver. What were they called? They were a AAA hockey team in the 90s, because he's in the 1997. Garrett's the 98 kid. We ran the 97 spring hockey program here in Saskatoon. Okay. We were called the Junior Blades. And we played against Barzal's team in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And it was their first loss ever.
Wow.
We beat them 7-3, I believe, in that semifinal game. And Barzal, we heard about this phenom Barzal, but he didn't pass the puck. So we told our defense, like our D, I was running the D, I said, no matter what, skate forwards, and you guys just skate to the middle of the ice, down the middle, because that's where he wants to go, and he's going to get and that's exactly what happened, right? Yeah. He was young, right? He was like 11 or 12 years old, but this kid could fly. And so anyways, back to him now as a pro. Well, what Barry, the culture that Lou and Barry and the coaching staff have, that's work to get a guy like him to buy in. And that's a good coaching staff and a good organization. Yeah. And that's what they've got. Because they've got the best version of Barzal. We've seen him not be on the power play, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
We've seen him take a back seat. You're not playing. You don't want to buy in, you're not playing. Where a lot of other coaches, or I don't say a lot, but there's coaches in the NHL, junior level, my level that I'm at, you're always going on your risk and return. What is my risk and what is my return? And a lot of coaches at the young, even like midget AAA to Bantam, they don't want to make a kid. They don't want to make the risk go, you know what, this kid's not playing the right way, but he's put enough pucks in the net. We're going to let him do whatever he wants. Well, that problem gets bigger and bigger as you get older. Mm-hmm. And nobody ever wants to fix it, just like the kid for Barzal in Seattle. So then Barzal gets to the Islanders, and he just learned one way. Everything's handed to him. Mm-hmm. And now then you have a coach that says, no, you're not. I'm not handing it to you. You got to fight. We're going to make you play the right way. And it took time, but guess what? He should be thankful for Barry Trotz and that staff, because they've made him a more complete hockey player and a better version of himself that he can be an elite, which he is now in the NHL for the New York Islanders.
Absolutely. And I definitely see Barzal, being a huge part of that Islanders team for many years to come,
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about John Tavares, he was going to be the cornerstone for the Islanders franchise, although the situation for him, is a lot different back then compared to now. But, with a guy like Trotz in place, they're set for being a very competitive squad for the next 5-10 years.
Look at the Capitals. Look at the Capitals. Look at the stability you have up top. If you don't have it up top in your organization, Philly's going through it now, right? Yeah. Honestly, they brought in, they made some changes, and he's trying to change things with the team, and everybody puts in their own stamp. Barry did the same thing, with Washington. He left Nashville. He went to a better pay grade, but not a pay grade, but a team that actually was going to spend some money with Washington, which they did, right? They weren't going to do it in Nashville, but they did it in Washington, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, but he had to get Ovechkin to buy in. And here's a good story about Ovechkin. So Lane Lambert, Ovechkin's like a big kid, right? He's a pleaser, though.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool when you hear Lane talk about him, who's now the coach in with the Islanders. So he basically showed Ovechkin tape of Sidney Crosby, not scoring goals, but blocking shots. And the message to Ovi was, listen, you're a great hockey player, but if you want to have a ring, this is how you got to play. Look what Sidney does.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept showing all these clips of Sidney Crosby blocking shots. So when Ovi would go into a game and block a shot, he would come to the bench and I say, did you see that? And they're like, yeah, good job. He's like, yeah, I'm blocking shots. He's like, I don't mind, but and I think that's where your coaches are. It is a, in today's game especially, it's not like it used to be, but you have to be these players aren't stupid. They come up with the game. They know what the hell's going on. You can't pull the wool over their eyes. You're not gonna,
right.
I tell my guys, I said, in my day, somebody said, run through the wall. You just ran through the wall. Pick yourself up. You got to do it again. Well, you would just do it again.
Yep.
I said, you guys go, okay, what's in it for me? I said, you know what? You guys can go out you can have a party tonight, maybe. So if I run through the wall, I get to have some fun tonight. Yep. Okay, I'll do it then. So you're always negotiating. You have to be a good negotiator nowadays with being a coach. So.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
today Washington made a hockey trade. I think they were the ones that got Mantha, correct?
Yeah, Mantha. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only real hockey trade. Everything else was kind of buying or selling, but that was a hockey trade. What did you think?
Yeah, I think. Well, here's what happened there. I believe because I follow Washington because of Garrett. I hate to be bringing them up because I know we got a Philly and we should be talking about some of the other stuff, but I like that trade because I'm selfishly as a dad for Garrett, I'm going, that means they're going for it, right? Because they gave up a good player with Verona.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
very good.
He's a good player. He's a goal scorer, but he's not scoring this year. Panic is, to me, I don't know what he is, actually, and I think that's probably his problem. If I don't know what he is, I'm sure the coaches sure now don't know what he is, right? He's a Euro that obviously, I don't know. Anyway, but Verona can score, and Verona hasn't scored here, but he's got all this skill level. He's fast. And I talked to Garrett about it today. I said, Garrett, I watched him play last night, and there was a 2-on-1, and he got back to make it a 2-on-2, right? That can fly. Like he was a half a zone behind. But then there was a 50-50 puck, and he should have been the first guy on the puck, and he pulled a shoot. Right? He let the other guy go in first. He didn't want to get hit. I'm like, ooh, not good. You know what I mean? Like for a young guy, and he's a young guy, so he's like, so I'm thinking, okay, that's another 2 young guys out of the lineup. Well, now their age level just went back up to about 32, whatever it is. Their youngest guy in the lineup is 27 or something, or actually it's Sprong at 23 or 24. After that, everybody's 27 and up.
That's old in hockey.
Yeah.
That is very old in hockey. They have an old team. So their trade today was a trade that they're making a run for it because they've got players that there's going to be a big change in this team in the next year or two.
Mm-hmm.
There just has to be.
I hope so because I'm getting real tired of seeing them on the top.
They've been doing well, but they've had what saved them this year is they had Holtby, and then they had Vidacek, who I watched all because he was with Hershey because Garrett was playing, and this goalie's good, but he never got a sniff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at the goaltending in Washington, it was because Holtby is Canadian. Well, the Euros, when you watch the games, honestly, it looks like they weren't trying as hard.
Right.
When Holtby was in net. And then when Samsonov was in net, they were like, well, now they got 2 Russian goalies with the Russian mafia there.
Yeah, right.
They're playing hard because of that.
Yeah.
So it's like the Russian mafia, that whole team.
Exactly. And with the Capitals, as you mentioned, they try to make a run every year. They make the big moves. And, when they made that cup run with all those moves that they made, I was thinking to myself, if this team doesn't win the cup, will we be seeing a rebuilding cap team? Will we see a lot of retooling going on? And this year, I think this might be one of the last pushes for them because
I think it is
draft coming up.
Yeah, it will be. I think it will
Yeah.
be too because. So I said to Garrett, I said you got to be a little bit patient yet. You know what I mean? You now gotta keep getting better. Keep yourself in the where your name gets brought up. So you're part of the taxi squad. That means you're part of a handful of players now that they're looking, right. So now you got to make them believe in you, and they're not going to believe in you unless you believe in yourself. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
To have your son sitting wait. It's going to happen because they, as you said, they are an old team.
Yeah, and Garrett and like I said I should make the joke with him. Like I said, you guys earlier, I said, "Oh yeah, what's Washington doing, man? They got a hidden gem down there in the minors." I can't wait to tell them that I'm going to say that I ripped Laviette in McClellan. He's going to be so mad. I said, "Yeah, you gotta go listen to this podcast, Garrett." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really sorry, but I went after your GM and your coach." Oh yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to bug him.
There we go.
So Rich, who's the best team of the league this year?
If I had to, right now, well, I like Tampa, right? I like Tampa. I think it's going to be up there, right?
Well, Kuznetsov is supposed to be back for the playoffs, no?
Yeah. So I like Tampa. I like the Islanders, tell you the truth.
Yeah,
I like the Islanders. I would bet on the Islanders right now. I'm not saying, and Washington's going to be there. The Islanders are going to be there.
Islanders have better goaltending than Washington.
The surprising, yeah, that's exactly it. Teams like like Edmonton. You know what I mean? Edmonton doesn't have the goaltending a question mark, right?
Well, Smith's been pretty good, but I mean, how much longer can he keep playing like this?
Yeah, like he's got to play like that for a while longer. So
yeah, he's really good, but can he keep playing like this?
So like you have them, and Montreal's all right. You know what I mean? But I think Edmonton's another one that I'd be a little bit. Cause you just got to be afraid of McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. So yeah, but I like the Islanders. I like Washington. I like Islanders, Washington, Tampa, Edmonton. I'd be a bit afraid of. I don't think Dallas will be as Dallas, LA, those teams. I don't see anything over there, right? I haven't watched a lot of those teams either, so I've been watching more of the Eastern games. I would do watch the Islanders. I do watch Washington when I get a chance. So been watching, and the Rangers are another team. The Rangers have, just like you said, they've turned things around, right?
Yeah.
And it's taken a little bit of time, but they've got, when you put your team together and you're going, well, this is what we're going with, and then you see that, holy shit, they're not really what they thought they were, right? And now you got to get rid of players that you got to think are worth something, but now they've gotten guys that are, I believe, they got a really good young group there.
I like their defense. I like their young defense. And next year they'll have Lundqvist coming up. That guy's going to be a very good player. I mean, they've got some good young players on the team. They're also going to be $26 million under the salary cap because they had all that dead cap space this year that they had to carry. So they're capable of making a pretty significant addition. I mean, I know they've got to pay. They're going to have to pay Fox, obviously, so they can't go too crazy, and they still have to pay Hedl, and they're going to have to pay Buchnevich, and they have to consider Zibanejad. So they can't go too crazy, but they can make one significant move. If they can get a real good center, I think they have a chance to be right up there.
Yeah, and I think goaltending, like you said, right? The goaltending. What's their goaltending like?
Shesterkin, I'm not crazy about him.
Yeah, so I think they got that. The one, listen, at the end of the day, if you don't have that, Jesus, if you look at all the good coaches in time, and it's a cliche, but it's the truth. If you look at the team that have success, just look at who's in net.
Yeah.
Different than Dallas last year. Your goaltending is what gets you there.
Are we being too hard on Shesterkin because we were used to Lundqvist?
And you know what? I didn't really care for Lundqvist.
No?
I didn't. I think he's a competitor, and I think because they didn't have the depth, they actually played the crap out of him so much that it made him less than actually what he was.
Well, he got old. He got old early. That is for sure.
Yeah, he got old early because of how many games he had to play for the Rangers, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so maybe we didn't see, as much as I wouldn't say he's an elite goalie. Yes, he's an elite goalie, but maybe we didn't see the best version just because of how he was handled. Maybe I don't know, but
yeah,
I just know that's the best goalie.
Still, you see Shesterkin, and you remember Lundqvist, and you're like, Henrik would have had that to sleep.
Yeah. But you see the cup winners, whether it be Billy Smith, Brodeur, you name the guys the players that have won cups, man. It's the goaltending that gets you there, and usually your decor, right? You build from the goalie. That's what I've been being taught here, where I've been taught is that you work from your goalies out, goalie to D, and then if you can keep the puck out of the net, you like to win a game. And this is what I said, how many do we need to actually win if they get none? One.
Exactly. Right? And you know what? The Islanders are built to be a playoff team.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I am not sold on Taylor Hall being traded to Boston. I don't think that necessarily makes them all that great. Taylor Hall, to me, he doesn't seem to have it anymore.
Well, I think I don't know. I don't know what it is. He's just Taylor's an opportunistic, right? He's like a Kessel. Right, very always on the score sheet, but you don't Phil won Stanley Cups which I mean with Pittsburgh, and Phil is he's like an unmade bed, but God, he finds a way to get her done, right? And I don't know if Taylor Hall's like that.
Taylor only has 2 goals this year, though. I mean,
I would have went after Phil Kessel if I was Boston.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's who I would have went after, because being in Phoenix and they're not really going anywhere. Jesus, I would try to get him to pry him out that way, right?
Yeah.
So all right. Well, Rich, we want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Really,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, really enjoyed having you on. Good luck with your hockey team.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
and you want to give everybody the name of the hockey teams again, so we can all.
Yeah. It's the Weyburn Red Wings of the SJHL and the Canadian Junior Hockey League in Canada. We're a Tier 2 team. It's Junior A level. It's a tick below the WHL Tier 1, and that's so I'd like to give a shout out to all to the Red Wings and the fans up there in Weyburn. And your son is on the taxi squad for the Washington Capitals. Yep. So I'm gonna make some calls. Hopefully, so what's that? Maybe we can get both you guys on a Zoom. Oh yeah, that'd be funny. Yeah, we got it. I'd like to see how he does in an interview. Yeah. When he makes the league after he scores his first goal. Oh, I'd love to. Get both you guys on. Be awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Okay. Thank you. Thank you again. Okay. Cheers, guys. Thank you, Rich. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, that was Rich Pilon. Great. It was a great time discussing with him. I know he was originally supposed to be on for about half an hour, but we went almost 50 minutes with Rich. That was amazing. Yeah. I didn't want to keep him on too much longer because he was really giving us a lot at this time, and he was very generous with his time, and absolutely, yeah. And you know what? He really, that was an enjoyable interview. He is funny. I'll tell you what a piece of work. Yeah. Great stories. Him talking about, his rookie year, him coaching now, following the legacy of Al Arbor, and him talking about his son, Garrett, on the taxi squad. Hey, listen, you know what? I didn't know, and I'm glad to see it. I hope we get to see him play. Yeah. I hope we get to see Garrett play. I hope we can get Rich back. Hope we can get Garrett on before an interview here and there. Yeah. I mean, listen, we have somebody we can root for now. Absolutely. And, hopefully he can be part of the A to D family. There we go. I love it. So I know our other hockey expert, Matt Sudi, he'll be jumping on in a few minutes. I know he's going to be talking the NHL Trade Deadline. The Flyers made a couple of moves today. I saw that. Gabranson got traded to Montreal. Yes. And you guys finally let Raffle go. Raffle's a disappointment. Yeah. When he first came up, I thought he was going to be a really good player. Yeah, I was okay. But it just never really seemed to happen for him. Yeah, going to this trade deadline, I thought, okay, what is this Flyers team going to do? You're basically sixth place in the East Division. You don't know what you're going to do at the deadline. Are you going to sell, or are you going to buy to get a guy like Matthias Ekholm? I know Nashville had that really high asking price to go after him, but I think where the Flyers are, I think they're playing a little bit smart. I know they got the cap space situation coming up next season, so that maybe they'll make those splash free agent signings.
Yeah, I don't think. Listen, I know a lot of people were disappointed that they sat that, and I heard that. I read the comments. Everybody's mad because they sat in their hands. But let's be honest, okay? They're more than one defenseman away.
Exactly.
Okay, and to mortgage the future with the draft picks,
right,
is kind of foolish, because this year, if they went out and got themselves a top-notch defenseman. Yeah. Okay, which, I mean, after Savard got traded to Tampa Bay, no, wait a minute. Did he get traded to Tampa Bay, or he got
Savard to Tampa, yeah. Savard went to Toronto.
Okay, he went to
Toronto, yeah.
Toronto, okay.
I know Foligno also went to Toronto as well.
Right, but after he went to Toronto, I mean, it's kind of like, at this point, is there really any point in the Flyers trading a first-round pick and maybe a couple of top prospects to try to get a defenseman, so they can make the playoffs and then get hammered?
Right.
I mean, for whatever reason, something has happened to Carter Hart this year. He's not.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
He doesn't see. He seems to go down way too fast now.
Yeah.
And he's getting beat constantly on those high shots.
And I also think too that the defense is also not helping him either.
No.
Especially, I know it's been said several times over the course of the Hockey Happy Hour that, the loss of Matt Niskanen really affected this defense. And, I know we all harp about, the young guns coming up and making an impact, but our young guys have been pretty disappointing so far. I don't know.
I don't think it's all not having Niskanen. Yeah. I mean, yes, he did add a veteran presence and everything, but I mean, these guys like Hogg and Myers and I'm trying to think who else. The only guy in that team that seems defensively to be playing well is Provorov, and Shane Gostisbehere the last few games. Yeah. Ever since they waived him and put him on the taxi squad, they seem to light a fire under his butt. And
exactly.
He's playing better now.
He's playing a lot better, and you're in this. He was in the center of so many trade rumors too before he got waived. It's like, all right, what can we get out of Shane? Like, what can we get for him? And then you have the expansion draft coming up. Is Shane going to be let go and dealt to Seattle? And that's the other thing too. Is like he's basically fighting for a roster spot for the next couple of years. We were all hype on Shane.
Particularly for next year.
Exactly for next year.
If you think about it, you're going to protect Provorov.
Yeah.
You have to protect two other defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and Shane's making some money too.
He is.
So that's the thing. You have to really wonder. I mean, are they going to protect him? And if they don't protect him, will somebody just say, "Oh hell, what the hell? The guy's a pretty good player. Let's just go get him anyway." Yeah. I mean, if I'm picking players and he's available, why not? He can run a power play.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
and the other thing too.
But if he's good on the point on the power play, what the hell?
Right.
That's not a bad thing. So that's right. Another thing that you have to worry about.
Exactly. And the other thing too, I know people are bringing up already. You're in the middle of he's in the middle of his second season. And you kind of foreshadowed this when he jumped over to the Flyers, Alain Vigneault. I think you were right about Alain.
Yeah, Alain. The problem with Alain Vigneault is nobody blocks shots. His way of coaching is he wants everybody to stand up and step into the players, and then he rely on your goalie, which he could do with the Rangers because the Rangers had a great goalie.
Right.
And whether Rich wants to say that he didn't think Lundqvist was as good as everybody said he was, I would beg to differ.
Yeah.
Vigneault relied on Lundqvist to make saves.
Yeah.
And then he'd like to have the puck moving defenseman to get the puck out and try to do the headman passes. That's his game, and that's what I'm sure he's playing the same way with the Flyers. Problem is, when teams know that you're doing that all the time, it's not that hard to stop it. And if you close the ice surface off a little bit, the problem is these guys are going to not going to be able to defend, and you have to block shots. I think that's something they have to do to win. I'm wondering, and maybe this sounds crazy, but does John Tortorella get fired from Columbus? And does Alain Vigneault get fired from Philly? And then does John Tortorella come to Philly and teach these guys how to play defense? Because if there was ever a guy, if there was ever a guy that could teach a team how to play defense, Tortorella.
Torts, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
I know when Matty jumps in, I know he's going to have his 2 cents about.
If he comes in there, if you don't play defense, you're not going to play. And I think a lot of their forwards, I think it's a lot of their forwards are at fault here.
Mm-hmm.
You get guys. I mean, listen, I know Kevin Hayes is a good two-way player. I saw him play with the Rangers for a zillion years, and he comes back and plays defense. But I don't know about your other guys. I don't know what's going on. They are not playing good. They're not playing good enough defense, the forwards. Because if the forwards come back, then there's more of a gap.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit more of a gap. But they'll be able to at least stop these passes to the middle, because they are giving up way too many shots in the middle of the ice. They're letting guys get right to the front of the net. I mean, those 2 goals Buffalo scored yesterday.
Oh yeah.
When they rallied, I mean, they went right into the middle of the ice, and there was nobody to put on. Could you imagine if Rich Pilon was on that team?
Oh yeah,
he would have put them right on their asses, and they would
exactly.
And the Flyers don't have a defenseman like that.
They don't. They don't.
They're good skaters.
They're good skaters, but there's no fire in this defense. Standing up for your teammates. I know every Flyers group that I've seen is like, oh, we need to get back to the Broad Street Bullies. We need to get tough. We need to get runs. Like
you do need
the toughness, but it doesn't have to be every single player. It needs to be like a Dave Schultz.
No, you don't have to.
I do want to move on from the Broad Street Bullies era, but we do want that toughness. I like the Broad Street Bullies toughness.
You have to have grit in this league.
Yeah.
You can't get away. Look at the Rangers. Yeah. Okay, they're a perfect example. They got a ton of guys who can fly up and down the ice. These young players that they have, Kakko and Lafreniere and Hedl. Okay, and now this kid that they just brought in from Russia, Kravtsov. Mm-hmm. They fly up and down the ice, but you know what? Yeah. They're not gritty. Buchnevich, who's third on the team in scoring, they're not gritty. Right. They're not going to go in the corner, and they're not going to win all the battles along the boards. Nobody's going to be afraid of them when they come into the boards that they're going to get whacked.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you got to at least have a couple of guys on your team that when you're on the boards and when there's a battle on the boards, that you have to kind of keep your head up and look around where so and so, like Max Domi. Like, is Max Domi around here? Is he gonna put me through the boards?
Yeah, exactly. And they don't. Yeah, and Jason in the comments down below, he says we need a Donald Brashear, and yeah, we definitely need that.
You need a player that can play though. Donald Brashear.
We do need a guy who is tough like Brashear, but we need a guy who could play better than Brashear.
Yeah. Brashear. I mean, listen, no disrespect to him at all. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the best fighters I have ever seen.
Oh,
he was brutally tough. I mean, you go back and you go onto YouTube and you see some of the fights that he had with Ryan Reeves. I mean, Ryan Reeves right now is the king of the National Hockey League, and that guy took no prisoners. He was one tough player.
He was absolutely.
But they're right. You need some sandpaper on your team. Well,
exactly.
I could give you a couple of more examples. A guy like Galyenchuk, Max Domi, just to name a couple.
Yeah,
those are the kind of players that the Flyers need to add, and that's the same thing would go for the Rangers. These are the guys they need to have on the team, just because you need that change. Now, the Rangers went and traded Brendan Lemieux, which I hated to see that trade.
Yeah,
but, I mean, again, because Brendan can actually play a little bit. I mean, he's not going to score you 20 goals, but he'll give you 10 goals if he plays on a regular shift. And you know what? He'll give you 10 goals, and he'll fight anybody, and he doesn't back down from anybody. And he's the kind of guy these are the kind of guys that you need to have on your team. You can't have too much. You can't have too much of the finesse. You've got to have toughness. That's why the Islanders are going to be so tough in the playoffs this year.
Exactly. Now, before we get to the playoff talk, and we're on the subject of the NHL trade deadline, it's for our poll question. I know we haven't got to our poll question yet. I know Tom is probably going to kill me for not introducing the poll question early on, but our poll question for tonight is that after the trade deadline, the Boston Bruins are the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. Do you agree or disagree? And I know early in the comments, Brian Wilson of Agree to Disagree says he agrees. Unfortunately, they are going to be really tough to beat in a series. Brian Daly also disagrees with the poll. He disagrees to the poll. He thinks it's the Avalanche. They made a few solid depth moves in the last couple days. Greg Milakovic says he agrees to the poll, and he calls Taylor Hall a great pickup for the Bruins. And we got a hello from our friend from Detroit, Don Don.
My opinion is that I don't think the Bruins are going to win the cup. I'm not a big Taylor Hall guy.
Right.
I know he had a great season in New Jersey a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But I don't care what his excuse is. He's got 2 goals this year. Yeah. I mean, come on. 2 goals.
Especially a guy who's a former number 1 overall pick, and you have 2 goals so far this season.
And he won the Hart.
Exactly. Like, you're not supposed to for number 1 overall pick. Like, I would expect, you feel like in a blink of an eye, he ends up on a different team. Like, he was in Edmonton, then he's in New Jersey, then in Arizona, then in Buffalo, now Boston. Like this guy's gone through so many teams, like how Larry Kane goes through wives. It's crazy.
Well, now he's going to be playing with Krejci and Pasternak.
Yeah, it's a solid move for Taylor Hall. I mean, he's definitely going to go get his. I mean, it's definitely going to help him make a push for the for a Stanley Cup run for him.
Yeah, well, and again, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. So, I mean, he has 2 goals and 25 assists. Now, if he's a defenseman, you're like, ooh, yeah, awesome. That's what you want in a defenseman. You don't want a defenseman that's scoring too many goals, because if he's scoring too many goals, that means he's not playing defense.
Right.
Okay, and I don't care what anybody says. That's a fact.
That total fact.
Unless you're Robert Gordon or you're Paul Coffey, no. So
thanks for the love, Don.
Yeah, but I don't think Boston is the team to beat. If you're going to tell me that Tuukka Rask is going to be back and he's going to be healthy, then I'll start changing my mind. But right now, as things are going, I want to see Tuukka Rask out there, and I want to see him play, and I want to see him be healthy, and I want to see him play well. Otherwise, I don't care if they have Taylor Hall. I don't care who they have. The 2 guys they have playing goal right now. I mean, the Halak monster is injured too. The 2 guys they have playing right now play a total of 20 games combined in the NHL. I mean, I don't see it. I just don't see it. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to do that.
Absolutely, and I disagree to the poll as well. I think Boston is going to cause a couple fits in the playoffs. It's typical Boston hockey. You got the Brad Marchand. They got a nice young core. They definitely got younger. I mean, not to disrespect them, but they could put up a couple fights in the playoffs.
They're a tough team. I mean,
exactly.
Between Richie and Frederick, and they got some guys who can drop the gloves, and they are a very tough team to play against.
They are, yeah.
But I'm really concerned about the goaltending and the fact that is Taylor Hall. They've really had a hard time scoring goals. Yeah. And I mean, that game yesterday against Washington, it's like they lost 8-1. When I heard it was 8-1, I mean, I was like, what? How in the world do you lose 8-1? I mean, I understand Washington's a pretty good team, but Boston is not that bad.
Yeah, Boston's not a bad team at all. Where they are in the standings in the East Division, they're not bad. It's just a very cutthroat division.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and I said it before, the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
They picked up today. They picked up, if you guys don't know, they picked up Jeff Carter.
Jeff Carter. I saw that.
Jeff Carter is a pure goal scorer.
Yeah.
So you put him out there with all the other guys that they've got. Malkin should be back before the playoffs. I'm one of the few that think this, but I happen to think Casey DeSmith and Tristan Jarry are outstanding goaltenders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're. I don't think they're as good as Varlamov. Okay,
right.
I'm not gonna sit and try to say that they're better than Varlamov, but the Penguins are going to be tough.
Yeah, the Penguins.
They're going to be tough, and that's the one team. The Capitals are the Capitals, and they're going to be good. But as Rich said, okay, can they actually go out there, be patient enough to win a series?
Yeah,
and he's right about that. That's
And even Brian Daly says Pittsburgh got better with Carter. Bruins can be a lot tougher with Taylor Hall, but it's a question of which version of Taylor Hall you're getting.
Oh, absolutely. And right now, I mean, Taylor Hall just seems to get worse and worse. Now, I know Buffalo is a bad team. I get that. But, and Jeff Skinner, who is a pure goal scorer as well, only had 5 goals. But Jeff Skinner never won a Hart Trophy.
Right.
Never had 98 points in a season.
Okay. And Daly also said, like, as Rich mentioned, that the Capitals got better today getting Raffle and Mantha.
Yeah. Oh, Mantha is a tremendous player.
Yeah.
He hasn't put up put up the numbers that you would think that he should be putting up, but that a lot of that is playing with Detroit. But he's put up pretty good numbers on a bad team.
Yeah.
So you would think that he goes to a good team, who knows? It could be the Reggie Leach effect. If you remember, remember Reggie Leach played for the Oakland Seals.
Okay.
And, when the Flyers got him, he was an annual 20-goal scorer every year. Okay. Then all of a sudden he starts playing with Bobby Clark, and he's scoring 40, 50, 60, 70 goals, and so it does matter. Okay.
Exactly.
But still, he was getting 20.
Yeah.
I mean, Taylor Hall, it's just he's not that old either.
Right. He's still a young guy.
Yeah, and you would think with a you think he'd be out there playing his butt off because it is a contract year. So we'll see. Taylor Hall to me has a lot to prove. He's got to show me something, because I wouldn't be picking Boston to represent the East in the finals. I think it's either going to be the Islanders or Pittsburgh.
And I definitely agree with the Islanders.
Yeah, I'm not sure who is it. The East when they have the Final Four. Right. Is it the East playing the Central, or is it all based on points?
It's been a while since I looked into the rules for this year.
Yeah, I haven't heard what they're going to do yet. So I'm not. I'm maybe when Matt comes on, I can ask him, because I'm not. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure. He probably would know that. But to get to the semifinals, okay, the Final Four, it's going to be either the Islanders or Pittsburgh. I fully think that. I don't like Washington's. I was shocked that they didn't go out and get themselves a goalie.
Yeah.
I really was. The guy in Detroit, I mean, all day long, I can't remember his name now, Bernier. Jonathan Bernier. They're talking about him all day. And I mean, the guy's 10-9.
Yeah.
With Detroit. How many wins does Detroit have? Like 11?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously he's been playing pretty doggone well.
Right.
And you're sticking with Samsonov and the other guy who I can't remember his name, but they're both young goalies. I'm just a little surprised, because Washington's all in, but yet they're playing young goaltenders, and that's taking a big chance with the talented team that they have.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see about that.
Exactly. Now going over into the West Coast, Don in the comments, he says, as a Wings fan, he hates to say it, but the Avs are very dangerous.
Oh,
and he also asked about the question about any faith in the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yes, absolutely. Vegas Golden Knights have goaltending, and they're a tremendous defensive team.
Yeah, they got the whole Monty Vegas. You know, they entered the season. You know, they make one of the big they made a huge trade last season, getting Max Pacioretty. You know, they strike gold in the offseason by getting Alex Pietrangelo. I mean,
he's been hurt, but he's coming back.
Yeah, but you know, it's a huge move when it comes to the playoffs. And I think with Vegas,
Soberg going to Colorado is a big one.
Yeah, I mean those two teams. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if those two meet in their division final. You know,
yeah.
See what I don't like about the new division format is, you know, you don't have the West and East, and you know, had the conferences been back, I could have just said it could have been Knights Avalanche for the Western Conference final, and I mean, one of those two teams, they could easily lift up Stanley's Cup right there.
Absolutely. You know, at the beginning of the season, I took the Knights, the Golden Knights. So I mean, that was as far as in that division. I always pick the Tampa Bay Lightning to win the Stanley Cup.
I think that's kind of a gimme with Tampa. You know,
I've been picking them. I've been picking them every year since 2016. 2015 after they beat the Rangers in the semifinals. I think in 2014-15. Right. Since then, I've been picking Tampa Bay every year to win the Stanley Cup, and they finally won it last year.
Finally won it.
Yeah, they're going to get Kuznetsov back for the playoffs, and you know what? Stamkos has played the whole season and he hasn't gotten hurt.
Right. Which is great. You've
got a healthy Stamkos this year compared to last year when you didn't have Stamkos at all. And now you're going to have Kuznetsov in there, and they're already playing great hockey anyway. And they made some nice moves to shore up their defense, just like they always do. Yeah. So they're going to be awfully tough to beat.
Yeah, they are awfully tough to beat. And Noah Bertola in the comments, he says that there are still teams better than the Bruins. I definitely agree with that. Daly also gives his favorite for the Cup. He's got the Avalanche winning the Cup, and they added great depth on offense and goaltending in Soderberg and Dubnyk.
Well, I'm not sure about Dubnyk, but you know, again, they got a veteran. He's the guy that the Washington Capitals should have gotten. You know, I mean, I thought that was smart of Colorado to do that because, again, their goaltending is injured, and they wanted to make sure they got a guy who's been there before if the other two aren't able to play. And, that was just smart. Soberg was a huge pickup. I like him. I mean, I was saying before, I really like him. It's going to be very interesting. I think it's an open field. I don't think there's any overwhelming favorite this year like it's been in the past.
Yeah. I mean, going into the season, you know, I would think it'd be Vegas, but then Colorado got better. The Islanders got better. The Capitals got better. It's going to be a very interesting Stanley Cup playoffs. I'll say that.
Yeah, our division is just so loaded. When you've got three elite teams in the division, it's very tough. And that's one of the reasons why I think you're seeing the Bruins struggle and why you're seeing the Flyers struggling this year.
Right.
And, the Rangers are still rebuilding, and I think the Rangers have actually played extremely well.
Absolutely.
All things considered. I mean, you know, as young a team as they have, you take a look at their third line, they don't have anybody over 21 on that line.
Right.
I mean, Hedl, Kakko, and Lafreniere, that's their
having Lafreniere and Kakko, man.
Yeah,
and then, those two are going to be super effective when they get a few years in. They're going to be that tandem to watch.
I mean, it may be better off for them if they are out of it as far as the playoffs, because then there's no excuse not to let them keep keep letting them play together.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy Blackwell has like 13 goals. They had signed him from the Devils for 2 years for I think like 1.5 million,
right,
something like that. So he's going to be there. He's been playing with Strome and Panarin, which just goes to show you if you play anybody who plays with Panarin is automatically going to be great.
Oh yeah, with the bread man, absolutely.
Yeah,
and we got a question from Don, which brings me into our guest that's going to be jumping in. And Don asks, Frank, can the Flyers make the playoffs? I'm going to have Matt and Sudi answer that. So Matt and Sudi from the Hockey Happy Hour joining us for the rest of the show.
And so thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thank you, Matty, for joining us in such short notice.
No problem.
So for the poll question, after the trade deadline, do you think that the Boston Bruins are the Stanley Cup favorites?
That's tough to say, only because I feel like the teams out west are pretty solid, and I'm going to say no. I'm still feeling like Vegas is probably going to wind up winning something. Okay. Vegas just doesn't seem like a team that has many weaknesses. Between them and Colorado, it seems like those are the two teams to beat. Maybe you could say Boston, they're definitely going to make noise. They could easily get into, if they show up in the semis before, or they get into the final, I wouldn't be surprised. But I feel like if you shut down the perfection line, I feel like that's when Boston's issues start to show up, because Boston's had some trouble with some depth scoring. And so I think that could be exploited with the right team. Unfortunately, if you're a Flyers fan, the Flyers never exploit that. But I definitely feel like if
what do you think of that?
It's a good pick for them, because Taylor Hall, while he may not be the guy who will change the world and shatter it, I think he'll definitely be good depth for them. If he can get his offense game going and get some depth scoring going, then the Bruins have a little bit more options to their game. Right now, I feel like if he fits in fine, then they should be good. If they get that depth scoring, then the one weakness that I really feel uncomfortable with the Bruins on is kind of taken away from them. So that's a good thing if Taylor Hall winds up being the answer to that and getting some depth scoring going for them.
How long do we think their goaltending is going to be an issue?
I mean, it depends on when you get Halak back or you get Rask. I mean, but here's the thing, though.
That's an issue right now. I mean, there's no question. That's a problem right now for them.
It is, and I mean and I'm not trying to say that it's because they don't have goaltending prospects. They do. It's just that you're asking a guy like Swayman, who's young, he's inexperienced, and he's stepping into a role now of oh shit. And then Vladar isn't a bad goalie, but he's a third stringer. So you're kind of in a rough spot there on goaltending wise. Now, if they can get Halak at least back in time, then they've got a shot, And if you get Rask, then that's Then obviously you're okay,
That would worry me more than anything else, to be honest with you. That's what would have me worried about Boston is the goaltending right now. If these two guys, if they keep getting hurt, they're not playing. How in the world are they going to do anything in the playoffs?
Right.
When goaltending is magnified, and they're going to be playing. They're going to be playing probably Washington in the first round, Washington or the Islanders or Pittsburgh, and all three of those teams have beat them up this year. So I just don't know how that's going to happen.
I mean, the only way I could see it happening is if they get their goaltending back in time, or if somehow Swayman shows up and says, "Hey, you know what? I want to make a great impression in the playoffs," which I don't know about that. That's a very rare situation that can happen there. Sometimes it does, but it's very rare.
Look at St. Louis. Remember St. Louis a couple years ago?
Yeah,
it can happen.
Yeah, and then also Matt Murray with the Penguins.
Right. I mean, it happens. It happens a lot. So, but still, I mean, you're still asking a lot.
Yeah, you're asking a lot of a kid to say, "Hey, can you get us to the Stanley Cup final?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, right. We want you to play better. We want you to play better than Tuukka Rask, who's a legend.
Yeah, that's a lot to ask for on a kid.
Absolutely.
But for me though, personally, I wouldn't necessarily say the Bruins are the favorite to win the cup. I still feel like one of the teams in. It's hard to bet against Vegas and Colorado right now. Those are two teams I'm really high on, and I mean, hell, who knows? Maybe Minnesota will do something. They seem to just come right the hell out of nowhere and turn this season into their own.
They've been good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say Boston's the favorite in my opinion, but I definitely, if they make a run, I wouldn't be shocked because Boston seems to pull shit out of their ass a lot of times, and it just happens.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Tampa Bay, I think, is still going to be a very tough out too, especially when you got Stamkos playing and he hasn't been hurt this year. He's playing and he's healthy. You're going to get Kuznetsov back for the playoffs. And they obviously made some nice moves today as well. They're definitely one of the trade deadline winners today. They're going to be a tough out as well.
Now, looking in the comments, we got Christian Fortin going with Toronto as his pick.
See, here's my thing about Toronto. Can they get out of their division? They absolutely can. But my question is, what's going to happen when they're not in their division? That's when I'm going to be very interested to see how they handle, because we've seen it before. Toronto has either a pretty good season or a meh season, and they absolutely shit the bed in the first round. So I'm still unsure of Toronto right now. I'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
I love the Foligno deal, though. I got to tell you.
It is a good deal.
I love that guy as a player. I'll tell you what, he's the gritty sandpaper guy that they don't have in their lineup. Who's going to stand in front of the net. He'll take the beating. He'll fight if he has to fight. He'll settle down that locker room if those guys get into a situation where they're behind. He's really a big time leader, and I could just see with him being a big difference maker. The only thing I'm worried about with the Leafs is the goaltending. What is going on with Frederik Andersen? Who's going to be the man in between the pipes for that team? It's been a rough. Yeah, I mean, if they're playing a team like Tampa Bay or they're playing Colorado or Vegas, or Washington or the Islanders, are they going to be able to beat those teams who can sit there and they can slow the game down and they'll capitalize on bad goaltending?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if they did face off with a team like, say, Tampa, for example, if Anderson is not up to snuff, you could get away with that against some of the Canadian teams. Like, you could get away with it because some of those Canadian teams, their offense is okay. Others, their defense is terrible, so you can make up the difference. But when you face a team like, say, Tampa, if you have even just slightly suspect goaltending, that's enough to get you eliminated 5 from the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Absolutely. Or Colorado, or Vegas. Or you look at our division, whether it's Pittsburgh or Washington, or the Islanders. I mean, all three of those teams are definitely scary teams to play.
Yeah,
so I don't know if they're. I just don't know if they're a solid enough and gritty enough team. They've certainly got a lot of good skill players. I just don't know if they have enough grit. But Foligno was really a good trade for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think he also brings a lot of experience to that locker room. Not that Tavares didn't do it, but at the same time, I feel like it's even more so with Foligno because, like you said, sandpaper kind of player. Kind of player who doesn't take shit. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's the kind of player you might need in that locker room because it doesn't seem like they have that guy.
No, and he's one of the toughest players in the league too. So I mean, again, that's to me, that's the kind of guy you want on the team. I mean, as a Ranger fan, honestly, Matt, during the summer, I would love to see them sign him. I would think that he would be absolutely a perfect fit. You know, he plays center. He would be perfect. You know,
No, it makes sense.
Doesn't cost a lot of money. You know.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, for the Rangers, for a young team that had some veteran players, and they got off to a really bad start, and it was looking like that was going to sink them, and then they're starting. You see them gearing it back around a little bit, but the problem is that the division is so tightly compacted, and at the same time you have such a short season. You run out of time real quickly to make up the difference, but. For a guy like Foligno to come to a team like that to kind of bring some more leadership to that locker room, maybe he would be able to whip everyone into shape and kind of say, hey, no more, because that's the one thing that the Rangers, that was their problem was, unless they were playing the Flyers. Most of the time the Rangers found themselves they got caught. They got caught a few times by other teams, where it's like, their players are just, they're not. Either it's their youth that's not carrying through, or
they don't finish periods. That's really the biggest problem with that team. They'll give you 18 minutes of solid action. Okay, the 19th and 20. I can't tell you how many times with less than 2 minutes to go in games and in periods, how many times they've given up goals, and that's a killer when you do that.
Oh yeah, I know that pain a lot.
They did it again last night against the Islanders. I mean, and and to their credit, they fought back, tied up the game, had a lot of chances to win the game. They missed a ton of opportunities. I think they hit the post 3 times in the third period. I mean, to their credit, they came back and got a point, but that's going to be tough for them. And I said at the beginning of the season, it's a situation with them. They're still young and they're still inconsistent, and they need a year to play together and to gain that cohesion. I think next year, I think they do make the playoffs for sure. I think they could be a contender if they make the right move over the summer.
Right.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Frank.
All right, so there's a question from Don. Were you guys kind of surprised that Scott Laughton was in trade discussions?
No, not really. I mean, Laughton is the kind of player that I think teams would like. Laughton's a tough kid, and at the same time, he's also a guy who gets, he has those timely clutch goals, which he's had a few of them this year for the Flyers. Unfortunately,
especially against us.
Yeah. Oh God, he does have the best moment I think for the Flyers this year, and that was outshining Ovechkin on Super Bowl Sunday. To me, I think that's got to be the best moment this year for the Flyers when he got that hat trick. But I don't. It doesn't surprise me. It would have sucked to see Laughton go, but you know what? I understand. You gotta. With the way the Flyer season went, you had to do something. You have to have a shakeup of some kind.
Either you sign him or you trade him, and they signed him.
Right.
That's you want to keep guys like that on your team.
You do, and honestly, though, at the same time with the trade talk, it doesn't surprise me because, again, with the way the season went, you kind of need to shake things up, and you don't want to say goodbye to players like that. But at the same time, you also have to say to yourself, well. We're not going to make the playoffs if we keep playing like this, which now it's kind of pretty much set in stone. The Flyers aren't going to do it this year. But at the same time, you got to do something. You got to try and shake this up a little bit because you're allowing these guys to just continue to play inconsistent hockey. They look like crap out there on the ice. Sometimes they have good periods, and then other times they have absolutely shit periods. And it's just another one of those, Jesus. It's like, what am I supposed to do here? I'm watching from period to period, and I don't know what Flyers team I'm going to get. I don't know if they're going to play good. I don't know if they're going to play like garbage. And people wonder why Carter Hart's confidence was in the toilet.
Carter Hart, and I'll tell you what, being that I'm not a Flyer fan, I can give you a very objective opinion about him. He's going down too early. And he's not coming out and cutting down the angle. His ass is always in the net, and he's always down on his knees. and they just keep shooting it high on him over and over and over again. I mean, I understand if you're a butterfly goalie that's how you play, but you know the old saying, you can't make the first move on a shot. You gotta let the shooter make the first move, and then you make your move. Because when you make the first move and you go down as early as he's going down, they're just shooting the puck high on him.
Yeah, I can see that. And that was an issue with him when he first came into the league. You know, he was going down too early. He would drop his shoulders, and that would leave the corners open, and guys were picking them on him a little bit. He did fix that over time, but I think this year, right now, with all the shit that's going on and all the chaos, there has to be something going on in that locker room for them to be playing like this. I think Carter has – I think he lost his focus, honestly, on his game. And I think that's a result of what you were seeing there, is that I think he was losing focus. And is that something that he shouldn't, lose? Of course not. That's one of the things that I would knock him on. It's like you never. Yeah, he's only 22, so it's not. He's not.
Yeah. I mean, he's got. He could be fixed. It's not. That's not a hard fix. Okay. If they improve their defense and stop giving up A+ scoring chances, then he's not going to be going down early all the time. Because the problem is the Flyers don't necessarily give up a lot of shots, but it just seems to me like when they give up shots, they're like always A+ opportunities.
Well, and we've seen it. I mean, hell, Chris Kreider, he had a hat trick against the Flyers, and he got it in that game because the Flyers left him alone in front of the net every single time, and he just poked the puck in on a rebound. It's like, well, why was Kreider left alone in front of Hart? That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be leaving a guy in front of him. You need to clear the porch. Yeah,
well, that's a problem with the defense. And again, when we were talking to Rich Pilon, I don't know if you saw the interview. We were discussing the fact that between the Flyers and the Rangers, they could really use a guy like him because nobody stood in front of the net against him. Not unless they want to get their back cross-checked into oblivion.
Yeah, and we've been saying that the Flyers need a defenseman that's a stay-at-home guy who's able to clear the porch, who's able to be that guy who's going to block shots. He's not going to try and get offensive-minded, which some of the defensemen are, which doesn't help the situation because if you got two offensive defensemen on pair, it's like, well, here's the problem: both of them are going to try and cheat. What happens when they both try and cheat? You can get caught, and they've been getting caught a lot this year.
Yeah, and that's partly coaching because Vigneault loves his defenseman to stand up, let the goalie make the save, and then have the defense move the puck and get the puck moving up the ice. That's his style of coaching, and I know that because I'm a Ranger fan, and I saw the same thing going on year after year after year, and it's hard to win a cup doing that. You can make the playoffs by overpowering teams with a great offense, but it's hard to do that because, unless you have Lundqvist in goal, it just doesn't work.
No, you're right. I mean, to be fair, too, if Lundqvist had been coming in even at a young age, it probably he would have been going through the same thing. You know what I mean? But because Lundqvist was in his prime, he was able to handle that, and he was able to handle that better than most.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. He figured, I have Lundqvist, and even when he was with Vancouver, trying to remember who Vancouver's goalie was when they lost to Boston.
I think that was Luongo.
Luongo was like a Hall of Fame goalie, so he did the same thing with them. And they would try to get the puck up the ice to the Sundin boys and let them do their work, and they did. But that was always a problem.
Yeah, it's clearly been a problem, and I was not very happy with the lack of anything that I saw from Fletcher. That was one of the things that really disappointed me at this trade deadline, and it was more than just any trades because I had a feeling we weren't going to get one. We had one, and it was a minor deal. But Fletcher said a long time ago, I can't get the trade deal that I want, basically. He didn't come out and say it, but with what he was saying, you could tell he's not getting the trade deal he wants. So you kind of figure, okay, Flyers aren't doing any moves in the trade deadline. Fine, whatever. But something still needs to be done. Whether that means firing a coach, whether that means punishing a player, whether that means something. You have to do something here to put the hammer down, because if I'm the GM and I'm looking at this team playing like garbage, and at the time they were playing like garbage, they lost that game against Buffalo and they had 3 minutes left to go. So can't say they gotten drastically better. You've got to bring the hammer down somehow.
That was really a bad loss.
Now, here's a good question from DB. How in the hell did Boston trade a cheeseburger and a bag of Cheetos for Taylor Hall? The whole city of Buffalo needs to be relegated. It's a very good question.
I think the whole city of Buffalo is going to be chasing that general manager out of town, to be quite honest with you.
I think Buffalo's got very good to give up.
Great thing you have the Bills this season. I'll say that.
Yeah, I keep hearing Julio Jones. I keep hearing the Julio Jones rumors. I'll tell you what, if Buffalo's able to pull off that move and bring him in, boy, oh boy, are they going to be tough.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to believe it, but the same family owns both of those teams, and they are night and day. The Sabres are the most garbage team you could ask for, and one of the biggest laughing stocks in the entire NHL right now. They took the spot of the Panthers or
Arizona.
Arizona,
Yeah.
Yes, the big one. Like, it seems like they're the Arizona of the East. I thought it was going to be Florida, but Florida's actually having a good year this year.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, maybe not. And now finally you get Buffalo, and they're like that. But then you get the Bills on the other hand, and they're actually making the playoffs. They actually look like a legitimate team. You know, it's like, holy shit. Same family owns these teams, and it is night and day.
Exactly.
It is stunning.
And I remember when everybody was so excited, it's like, oh, Jack Eichel's going to make the Sabres a great playoff team. And yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. It didn't help to see him get hurt. I mean, that really killed the team this year.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, they weren't exactly playing good hockey to begin with. But I mean, they had a real good power play when he was on the team, and when he got hurt, I mean, that was just it. They can't score. Well,
right.
Yesterday, obviously, that they scored a lot yesterday, but
things happen, and of course, bad things happen in Philly, and we give up 2 late goals.
Of course,
we lose to all teams. Buffalo,
especially you go and you beat the Bruins.
Yeah.
Big win against Boston, okay, and you put yourself right back in it by beating Boston. And then you could really put the pressure on them by beating Buffalo, and then you lose that game. You don't even get a Bettman point for crying out loud.
Right.
I know. I'm like, what the fuck?
I mean, we lost last night, and that was a devastating loss. But at least we got a Bettman point, and the Islanders are better than us. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, I mean, we're not as good as the Islanders.
Right.
So getting 3 out of 4 points against the Islanders, I think for us is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the weird part is that the Flyers haven't played bad against the Islanders all year. I mean, if you actually break it down, the Flyers have played pretty decently against them. Any game the Islanders have beaten us, they had to earn. So it's kind of weird. Like, we played good against the Islanders. In the most recent games, we played good against Boston. The rest of the season, we played like shit against them.
Yeah, and we picked it up against them.
Yeah,
you're even with the Rangers.
Yeah, but it's weird though. Have you ever noticed that the Rangers and the Flyers are kind of mirroring each other in terms of the season that they're having? Just as inconsistent can be. You know, it's like, okay, breaking
period from period to period.
It's amazing how these two teams are pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, we shit the bed in the first period. We always have great second periods. Then we play great in the third period till there's about 5 minutes to go, and then they start with the going into the defensive shell and just shooting the puck out and dumping it in and making no attempt to score.
Yep.
And then not being able. And how many goals have they given up when the other team pulls the goalie? I mean, it's unbelievable how many goals they've given up this year doing that.
Yeah, it's so bad to watch when you see the team that you root for just constantly doing the same mistakes over and over and over again. You just want to reach through the TV and strangle someone. You were so mad.
Right. And I know you're probably going to talk about it all Thursday. I know you're probably going to be talking about the deadline, talking about the Flyers' loss against Buffalo and whatever's going to happen to them in the coming weeks. But I know Thursday's going to be fun for you.
Well, you're going to be playing New Jersey a lot. So, well, that'll be your chance. I mean, we've got 4 in a row against New Jersey now. So I'm thinking, okay, if they can win, if they get at worst case scenario, you go 2-1-1, and you get 6 out of the 8 points. Okay, that's not a bad thing. I mean, we are the Rangers. We're not Wash the Capitals. You can't expect 4 straight. I mean, that's asking an awful lot. Even though they're the Devils, but we get 6 out of 8 points in the next 4 games. That'll definitely keep the pressure on Boston. But then we're going to be playing Washington, and we still have 4 more 3 more, I guess, with the Islanders. I mean, it's going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, I hear you.
The one team that really pounded the crap out of us this year is Pittsburgh. I mean, we just have no answer for them.
Yeah, weird part is that we see the Devils. We've played well against them for the most part, besides that one blowout that they beat us in, which ironically enough, that was their one win against us last year was a blowout. But and then we've played well against Pittsburgh, but that shouldn't come as a surprise because even a shit Flyers team tries to play the Penguins hard. But it's just it'll be interesting to see how the Flyers handle this because, like you, I'm not sure what to. I'm not necessarily expecting wins all the time against the Devils. I'm kind of expecting them to pull some wins off against the Flyers and just smack your head in shame of like, God damn it, this team. This fucking team.
Listen, we blew a game against the Buffalo Sabres last Saturday night. Okay, we had a 2-1 lead in the third period, and Buffalo scores with 7 seconds to go to tie it. And sure as shit, we lost in overtime.
Yeah.
That's funny because I could have swore you guys had the similar kind of game with them where they tied it up at the last minute and you guys won the other one.
That happened. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
That happened the night before.
That's just so weird how that shit happened. Like, it literally was just the opposite of that game.
Yeah.
And when the Rangers played the Flyers, okay, the Rangers, when they beat them, they slaughter them. And if it's a close game, they lose.
I know. That's weird how the Broadway versus Broad Street matchup this year has been so fucking weird. Like, it is so weird this year.
It is. And some of the games, the way that both of them have played, you're like, what?
Yeah, I remember the game where you guys were just rolling us. Like, it was in the one in the Garden, and it was just
that was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, I was just miserable that night. I was like, what the? That was the moment I realized, okay, we're done. Stick a fork in us. We're not making the playoffs this year. If we're gonna come into,
you didn't even start a fight.
Yeah, you would have thought, like, what the hell?
I mean, you would think if you're getting your brains beat in like that, somebody's got to go out there and have a fight and at least show a little anger.
Yeah, and that was pretty much my reasoning for like. Yeah, it was like that was the moment I thought like
they took it so well. It was like what the hell?
I know, like, but if you rewound the tape, not even like 20 years ago or 10 years ago, but even like 5 years ago, someone was gripping up somebody and throwing their ass to the ice, and there was just going to be chaos for like the next like 10 minutes.
Once it got to be 4-0, there should have been like 2 or 3 fights already at that point.
I know. It was crazy. I was like.
I mean, not that the Rangers are going to start anything when they're winning and everybody's happy-go-lucky, but come on, somebody on the Flyers has to go out there and and get into a fight and spark the team. I mean, because I mean it's just very strange because this is not this is not the usual team that I've seen play. I mean, I know Morin had that fight with Lemieux, but that was more like a wrestling match, and he kind of threw him around. He ragdolled him. But I mean, I'm not talking about something like that. I'm talking about like, going out there and just brawling it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Doing it up a little bit when you're getting your brains beat in. I mean, the other team's not going to respect you. That's why they ended up losing 8-3 the next game.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then after that game, that was in Philly. After that,
the second game in Philly, that was when Morin got into the fight with Lemieux, and all of a sudden the Flyers were playing hockey again.
Yeah, it was like, what the hell? And then they still got crap kicked out of them, and then they managed to get that miraculous win on Saturday. When I saw that we were facing you guys again on that Saturday, I was like, oh, Jesus. This ain't gonna end well. And then, sure enough,
I figured you guys were gonna we were gonna get your best effort that game, because I was like, there's no way we're gonna score you 3 games in a row. There's no way that's happening. First of all, we don't play 3 games in a row like that. So,
this has been a strange year for both of our teams. It's been a very weird year, and I think it says a lot about off seasons are going to be very, very important for both teams. We're going to find out a lot.
They both have lots of cap space. I mean, you guys, you had $22 million. Now I would guess, since you've just paid Lawton $3 million, so I guess that now you're down to 19. But $19 million, you should be able to pick up some good players with $19 million. It's no question about that. If you don't sign free agents, you could get a nice salary dump. You may have to take on a bad contract to get a star and not have to give up anything.
True. And I mean, plus also that's before the expansion draft, so where we have to wait and see what player we lose in the expansion draft. So that's going to be interesting with where our salary cap will be after that, which is why a lot of us have our fingers crossed that Shane Gostisbehere is going to be gone. Because come the expansion draft time.
Yeah, that could happen though, because
could happen. Yeah.
Listen, Frank and I were talking about that before. I know he gets paid a lot of money, but if you're a GM and you're building a team, okay, you could put him theoretically as your 5th or 6th defenseman, but then you can use him on the point on your power play to make it worth the money. So that's not a bad thing for them to do. Depending on what else is going to be available, but they'll get some good players. There's no doubt. I mean, look at what Vegas did.
True. And DB saying the Flyers need to bring John Scott out of retirement.
Well, that will be something.
John Scott. Oh man, that was one player.
Yeah, and as long as he gets voted to the All-Star team and the NHL tells him he can't be on it and he tells him to go fuck themselves and then he's still going to be on the All-Star game, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he scored a goal in the All-Star game.
And he won MVP.
I think
he scored a goal, too.
Oh, my God. That was great. That whole thing was hilarious. Oh, my God. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, you do bring up a good point, though, with Ghost. And I've said this before, he needs to change his scenery. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what's killing him. I feel like he has okay moments with the Flyers. Every time he gets a goal or something like that, then after that, he gives a really bad turnover, and it leads to a really great opportunity in front of harder moves. And so at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, he needs to change the scenery. He needs to go somewhere else. Maybe he'll refine himself and refine his game. Whereas, other players I would not want to necessarily give up on. Like a Provy, I don't want to give up on a Provy. I want to keep him around. He's not going
anywhere.
Yeah, I got you on that one. And plus,
they'll probably keep him, and they'll probably keep Sanheim. I would think that Myers and who plays with Myers? I forgot now.
Well, Sanheim was playing with him.
Okay,
but, yeah.
Sanheim and Myers, those are the two. Yeah, those two. I could see them not protecting those two guys. I can see them protecting Hogg because he's pretty good.
They could. I mean, I could see them protecting Sanheim only because I think that they're more looking at his defensive partner and seeing the lack of what Myers is bringing to the table. Whereas Sanheim was a draft pick for them, Myers was undrafted, and I feel like that was just a player they took a flyer out on. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
And he turned out to have he was pretty good last year, but now it's like, ooh, maybe we just got sold a bill of goods here, and he's not as good as we thought he was. I could definitely see them leaving Myers unprotected. They might keep Sanheim around. But for the Rangers, what are you thinking? What are you thinking they'll most likely leave unprotected for that expansion?
I've already kind of figured out what they're going to do. They're going to keep. They'll protect Trouba. They'll protect what's his name, Libor Hayek. They'll definitely protect him, and they'll protect Lindgren. They won't have to protect Fox because Fox has only been in the league for 2 years.
Okay.
They won't have to protect Miller. Smith's a free agent, and they're not going to take Smith anyway. Why would they? But I mean, they're not going to take him. So I mean, those. I think those are I think defensively they're in good shape, and the fact that Nils Lundqvist didn't play this year in the NHL, they can't obviously lose him either. So they're not going to lose a big time player on defense. It's offense that you kind of get worried about because obviously Zibanejad is going to get protected, and Panarin's going to get protected, and you would figure Strome would get protected. Hedl is going to get protected, and then you have to decide. And Kreider is going to get protected, and Buchnevich is going to get protected. So those are 7 guys, right? So then you have to worry. Well, what about a guy like Blackwell who has 13 goals this year? They'll probably lose him. I mean, and that would suck to lose him, or they'll lose Rooney, who's been real good on faceoffs this year. So I mean, they're going to lose a good player, no question.
Well, luckily, though, you guys do have them to spare, so it does suck, but at least you're not losing everybody, At least you're keeping the players that you feel like are going to really fit in perfectly into the system and everything like that,
First and second-year players. That's the whole thing. I look at it this way. You consider that they have most of their roster are first and second-year players, and they're playing at this level. I think we're gonna be in for some good hockey for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. I think that see, the thing is with the season, when you're in the middle of a rough season, it's hard to pull the positives away. But that's the thing, though, that I will say, the Rangers being a young team, there's still a lot of upside and everything like that. And while there's some veteran players, it's still one of those things of the youth is still there, and they're still continuing to push forward, and they're showing something by at least turning it around this year, and trying to make a run as best they can at the latter portion of this season. Even if they don't, they're at least showing something. They're showing some fire. They're showing some drive, and that's something that you want to see.
Oh yeah, that's not. Listen, that's the one thing I can't complain about that. I just my biggest complaint is I don't think that they come out ready to play in the first period, and I'm not saying that they're not skating. I think that Quinn is not necessarily Quinn is good at nurturing young talent, at nurturing them and getting them to play defensively well and getting them ready to play. But as far as his X's and O's, they always seem to get behind in the first period, and then they have to come back. Then there's the sense of urgency in the second period, and
yeah,
that and they get even, and then they fall apart late in the games. It's the same story every time, and that's a problem with coaching.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, you can't always come back from deficits. Doesn't help anything. And Don, I'll see you on Thursday, brother.
Yes. So that will wrap it up tonight for this special edition of the Sports Hounds. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Specialized Physical Therapy, our doc, Dr. Paul Vidal. Make them yours. He's got 2 locations over in Burlington and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Make them yours over at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. We also like to thank our friends over at the Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox over in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Many of us and our families deal with mental health and addiction issues. If you or someone you know needs therapy or the addiction detox, please call 856-651-8117 and tell them that Tom and the rest of the A2D crew sent you. And we're also brought to you by Body Check Wellness. They are a fabulous line of products that promote wellness, balance, and recovery by using the full potential of hemp. They come in extracts, blends, gummies, and topicals. Use promo code A2D for 20% off your order at bodycheckwellness.com. And when Riley Cote shows up on an episode of Hockey Happy Hour every Thursday, prepare to see yourselves a very special promotion. And we're also brought to you by eXp Realty, our realtor. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, looking for a change in career or brokerage, contact my friend Alan Foy and his great team over at eXp Realty LLC. You can contact him at 302-682-8820 or visit him at alanfoy at exprealty.com. Maddie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for coming on, Matt.
Thank you for coming on, Maddie, and special thanks to Rich Pilon for jumping on tonight earlier in the show. It was a great interview. You can check him out and his team over at the Weyburn Red Wings, where you can find them in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And we wish them the best of luck for the remainder of the season.
Son Garrett, and we want to see his son Garrett on the Capitals.
Yes, come on, Capitals! If you're listening, call Garrett up. And Rob Brinkman, we hope that he will be back next week. So for me, Frank Vesby, Matt Sudi, Brad Ryer, we will see you all next week. Be sure to like and subscribe.
There we go.